According to the Buddhist vision expressed by the Buddha in the Rohitas Sutta, the entire world that we experience is not outside us, but inside us. Because Buddha has used the words Vyamatta kalebere panyapimi lokancha. That means, according to Buddha, the entire world that we experience is within our own body. Really, it means our mental world. Mental world is a mental creation, created by our own mind. Referring to this nature of the mental world, Buddha used the Pali word manomaya in the first two stanzas of the Dhammapada. Manomaya is made by the mind, created by the mind. The basic nature of this mental world, according to Buddha, is its constant transformation, manifested by the universal energy. In fact, the universal energy is not a thing, but an activity, a creativity. It creates. Not only it creates things and beings, but also sustains and destroys things and beings. That is the nature of the universal energy. And the basic nature of the universal energy is dynamism. Dynamism means constantly active. Constantly active means constant transformation from one form to another form. The nature of dynamism is expressed by the Buddha as anicca, and the constant transformation due to the constant dynamism is called dukkha. The outcome of this constant transformation is nothing and no being can retain a permanent identity. Once this reality is realized, one cannot get attached to anything or being or no any object or resent anything or any being. The fact is, all things and beings that we experience, as I mentioned earlier, is a mental creation which look real but actually not real. It may be called a mirage. It may be called an illusion, because we get deceived by these mental creations because they look real. This is the fact that the Buddha preached the world throughout his career for 45 years as a Buddha. He referred to this basic nature of our mental world that we experience as dukkha. Dukkha really means transformation. Transformation of nothing but the transformation of the universal energy. As I mentioned earlier, energy is not a being, not a thing or being, but a constant activity. That is what Buddha referred to as anicca. and resultant nature of anicca or universal dynamism is universal transformation that the Buddha referred to as dukkha. Dukkha or transformation is the basic nature of the fourfold truth called Chaturarya Satya, Chatu Arya Satya. The fourfold truth that the Buddha preached the world for 45 years. It's called fourfold because Buddha dealt with the fourfold nature of this transformation. Its original nature, as I mentioned, is anicca, constant activity, on conditions. Things get transformed under certain conditions. All transformation. Not only all transformation, all activities, mental or physical, are the effects of a certain cause and effect. There is a scientific principle with regard to the nature of the world in which we live. Both our mental world and the physical world that we experience through our mind. The mental world we recognize outside us as a mental creation, as I mentioned earlier, and our sense organs experience a physical world outside us. But really, our sensory organs cannot experience the real nature of the physical world except the mental creations based on our sensory activities. Our mind creates a mental world through the information supplied by our sensory organs. And the mind is in constant transformation. Transformation as waves or transformation as chittakshana. The mind is a series of sparks, mental sparks created within us. That is why it is in a constant transformation. The Buddha taught, as I mentioned earlier, the four aspects of the transformation. Dukkha, Satya, the truth of transformation. Samudaya Satya, the cause of transformation. Nirodha Satya, the cessation of transformation. And Magga Satya, the technique of such cessation. However, cessation is only with regard to our mental world. The mental world is bound to cease, but not the physical world. There is constant transformation. Even according to modern science, the physical world made of matter. Matter is nothing but the universal energy. According to the conservation principles of physical science, energy can neither be created nor destroyed. It is a constant nature of the physical world, which is dynamic, constantly active. According to Adaricha Sutta, constant transformation is nothing but the dynamism. It is due to this dynamic nature of both the physical and the mental world, things and beings get transformed constantly. The outcome of the transformation is nothing, and no being can retain a permanent identity, either to be attached to or to resent. Once this reality is realized, the enlightened mind gets completely free of attachment and resentment, and the ignorance of the reality of the mental and the physical world that you experience. As I mentioned earlier, cessation of transformation is only with regard to the mental world, because enlightenment and the final passing away means the cessation of transformation both physically and mentally. But all physical entities get transformed constantly from one form to another form, because all physical entities are made of the universal energy, as I mentioned earlier. According to modern science, physical science, energy can neither be created nor destroyed. That means dynamism is constant in the physical world, and the transformation too is constant. The result is there is no permanent identity of anything or being, either in the mental world or the physical world. Enlightenment means the realization of this actual reality through our own insight. It is insight of wisdom, not through knowledge, but through self-realization. One who has realized this ultimate truth of things and beings is called a Buddha. Buddha means the verb, etymological meaning or the verbal meaning of the Buddha is one who has understood the truth of things and beings. The Pali word bodhiti means understanding the truth. Buddha means one who has understood. Its past participle means realized truth. Truth is realized. Realization of the truth. One who has realized is called Buddha in Pali. Buddha is a person who has realized the real nature of things and beings. The basic nature, as I mentioned, and as the Buddha has realized through his vision, the Buddhist vision, is the constant transformation or dukkha of all things and beings. The resultant truth of this transformation is, it has four aspects. The transformation is cause, is the result of a cause, transformation. The causation is called samudaya, as I mentioned earlier. The resultant transformation is good dukkha, and the cessation of this transformation mentally is called nirodha. Enlightenment means the cessation of mental creation. That means cessation of thinking. In the first paean of joy expressed by the Buddha after enlightenment, he says, Visankara gatan chitta. The mind became free of all imaginary activity. All imaginations. No imagination, no illusion, no mental creation, but the realization of the ultimate truth of things and beings. Buddha is one who has realized this ultimate truth of transformation, constant transformation, universal transformation, caused by the universal dynamism, resulting in the impermanency of all things and beings, so that the mind that realized the ultimate truth of things and beings is free of attachment called raga, resentment called dosa, and the ignorance of the reality called moha, that is enlightenment.